Alright guys, in this video we are going over 1968 dimes that you should never spend because it's typically the smallest detail that you don't want to miss that makes them worth a ton of money, just like the ones in this video. So this first coin right here sold for $5,750, and this coin, like I said, is from the Denver Mint. You can tell because there is a D mint mark above the date. Now when you're first looking at this coin, you will see a lot of nicks and gashes, and that will dictate a bit of the value of the coin because condition is so important on a coin like this. Now, this coin is graded by NGC at an AU 55. AU means almost uncirculated, which tells me that this coin actually went out into circulation, which means that it was in pocket change. That means that someone probably found this out in their spare change and said, hey, something's a bit off here, and they were smart enough to know what the coin is actually worth, which is a lot more than just 10 cents. So what do we need to be looking for? Well, this coin was accidentally struck on a 90% silver planchet. This is an error coin, and the best way to tell if you have one of these coins is if you weigh it. Now, if you weigh a typical 1968 dime, it is not going to weigh 2.5 grams just like this coin. If it does, you could have a rare coin. Now, there are people out there that will see a coin like this if you're trying to sell it, and they will try to rip you off and get the most money from you and pay you as little bit of money as they can so they can make a ton of money from you. You do not want that to be you. If you want to avoid things like that, I have a completely free ebook down below, but you don't have to do that. Just do your homework. Do not get scammed, and let's hop into the next coin. $504 here. I'll be very brief, but this 1968 Roosevelt dime was struck on a 25-cent thickness stock graded by NGC and AU 55. Pretty much what this means is this coin was way too thick than it actually should be. Someone noticed this, picked it out of circulation just like the previous coin, and turned a 10-cent coin into a $504 coin. This coin weighs 3 grams, but let's go to the next coin. I won't spend too much time, but this 1968 Roosevelt dime was struck 40% off center, and if you have a coin like this, you could be in for a real treat because this one sold for $2,160. $18,400 for this little 1968 dime, and it's the smallest thing. So this is the reality when it comes to this coin. Now these coins come as a set, and pretty much always these will have an S mint mark. Now here's the thing. There are 1968 Philadelphia minted coins that look very similar to this outside of the fact that this one is very shiny because it is a proof coin. Now a lot of the time proof coins are minted at the San Francisco Mint and there will be an S mint mark. This is the case here where there should be an S mint mark. I'll show you a diagram of the difference between a business strike and a proof coin. If you have this coin, you're in for a real treat because this one sold for $18,400. Now I wanted to throw this one in there because we're not entirely sure which year it is because it was struck 75% off center on a clad dime. I find that odd because the majority of the coin is actually a Roosevelt dime, but they're calling this a Lincoln cent coin, maybe because that was the last strike to hit this coin. Not entirely sure exactly on that, but essentially if you have one like this, it's rare and worth good money because this one sold for $2,300. $48,875 for this 1968 10-cent Roosevelt dime. Now, if you have not noticed already, this is very similar to the previous coin, except this one graded by PCGS at a proof 68. That's only 2 points away from the perfect grade of 70. Now, the higher the grade your coin is, the more money it's going to be worth. As we already know, this is an error coin that is missing that S mint mark, guys. So keep your eyes peeled for a coin like this that is proof and is missing an S mint mark because it could be worth a lot of money, just like this one that sold for $48,875. This quarter from 1970 sold for $93,000, and in this video I'm going to tell you the exact details that you need to know to make sure that if you come across a coin like this, you know its value and you know how to sell it without getting scammed or ripped off. This coin sold on January 12th of 2023, so this is a relatively recent sale, but it does not matter when you're watching this video because a coin like this will always hold value regardless. So this coin was graded by NGC at a proof 66. Now what proof means is that there's a difference in the type of metal they used. I'm going to show you a diagram of what a business strike versus a proof coin will look like. So essentially this coin was accidentally overstruck on an 1898 $5 gold coin. Now the rim of the coin looks like that simply because of it being produced on the wrong planchet. Planchet just means a piece of metal. Now there are people in society that do not want us to know about the values of coins like this. They simply want to take advantage of us and make as much money as possible. That's why I'm sharing information like this and building a following of like-minded people who are aware and are educating themselves so they can be prepared if they ever come across a rare coin like this. Now, if you want to join and start your journey of education, I have a completely free ebook down below. You don't have to do that, but just remember that there are some bad people out there in society looking to take advantage of us. So understanding a coin like this is incredibly rare and valuable, and someone could easily get taken advantage of if they brought it to the wrong person or did not have the information that they needed prior to selling it. Because guys, this incredibly rare 1970 quarter sold for $93,000. If you enjoyed this video, I'll see you in the next one. There are tons of paper money bills out there worth a lot of money that people simply don't know about because they don't know what to look for. In this video, I'm going to show you the smallest little detail on this bill that allowed it to sell for a ton of money. Imagine if you found multiples of these bills. You could literally go to a bank right now and get a strap of these and find an entire run. It is possible. Now what you need to avoid is if you find one of these bills, don't just sell it to the first person who offers you some money. You want to make sure you're getting the full value of your paper money bill, but more on that a little bit later. So really quick, this bill from 2017 is pretty rare. Now, first of all, if you look at the district seal, that's the black seal on the left-hand side, you're going to see an F. That is for the Atlanta, Georgia district. Now, here's something you really need to pay attention to. That F is also going to be at the start of the serial number. Now, if that large F in the district seal was an A, then the prefix should be an A. If it was a B, the prefix letter of the serial number should be a B, so on and so forth. Now, if it's not, that is an error and it's worth money. One more thing, you see some small sixes around the bill. That is the district number. And also F is the sixth letter in the alphabet. So if the district seal was an A, those numbers would be 1. If it was a B, those numbers would be 2, etc. If the number and the letter don't match up, it could be rare. Next, if you look on the bottom right-hand side of the bill, you'll see what's called the plate position. That's typically a letter followed with a number. Now, in this case, you're going to see a small FW before that plate position. All that means is that this bill was produced at the Fort Worth, Texas facility. Now, depending on how many were produced for a specific run will dictate the supply and demand for those bills. Most bills are produced at the Washington, D.C. facility. Now, if you do not have an FW there, that means it was produced at the Washington, D.C. branch. So why did this bill sell for so much money? Well, if you haven't noticed already, the left serial number is actually black when it should be green. These bills are very rare and sought after and worth a lot of money, especially if you have a lot of them that you get from the bank. Now, this one sold for $425. If the person got it graded and it was in a good condition, it's going to be worth a lot more money. Now, you need to find someone trustworthy, guys. Don't go to a pawn shop. Most of the time, they have no idea what's going on. People want to keep us uneducated about this information. Guys, don't let that be the case. Remember, guys, when in doubt, do your own homework. Trust yourself. If you want, I have a free ebook down below, but you don't have to do that, guys. I will see you in the next video. In this video, we are going over coins from 1972 worth a lot of money. There are small details in this video that you do not want to miss. When it comes to 1972 coins, this is the only video you'll need, so make sure you save it and share it with a friend if you want. But let's hop right into this video. So this is a 1972 D 5-cent Jefferson nickel that sold for $1,440. This coin was graded by PCGS at a mint state 62. Now let's point out the elephant in the room here. Why is this coin this color? Well, that's because this coin was accidentally struck on a Philippines 5-cent coin. Now, when it comes to error coins that are worth a lot of money, what you need to know is that you want to be looking out for the size of the coin, the color of the coin, and the weight of the coin. That means you want to get a scale for your coins. That way you can weigh them. Once you've done all that and you know that you have a coin worth a lot of money or that it's not typical, then what you're going to want to do next is educate yourself on how to sell the coin for the most amount of money possible, because there are people out there that do want to want to take advantage of us and pay us a little bit of money for something that's worth a ton. That way they can make the money. Let's not let that happen. And you should join us and get your free ebook down below, but you don't have to do that, guys. Let's just hop into this next coin. This 1972 coin is a 1 cent coin that sold for $312. I won't spend too much time here, but essentially, again, you can see that the color is a bit off here, and that's because it was accidentally struck on a 10-cent planchet. Now, what is a planchet, you may be asking? Essentially, a planchet is just a piece of metal that the coins are struck on, and this was struck on a 10-cent planchet. That's what allowed it to sell for $312. $3,055 for this 1972 25-cent coin graded by PCGS at a mint state 68. Now, this is a D mint marked coin, which means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Now, you can see a little bit of browning on the coin. Now, that is a naturally occurring oxidation process called toning. Toning happens depending on where the coin is stored, and the air will oxidize with the metals in the coin. What you need to know is that when it comes to the 1972 D Washington quarter, the grade is all that really matters. You can see this one's very shiny and lustrous. Someone got it graded and they got a very high grade, only 2 points away from the perfect grade of 70, and that's why this coin sold for $3,055. $4,200 for this 1972 S 25-cent Washington quarter. Now, this coin was double struck on a cent planchet. Not going to spend a ton of time here because it's pretty obvious what's going on, but this coin was graded by NGC at a proof 66 red. So pretty much regardless if this was intentional or an accident, somehow this happened where a penny planchet went through the hopper and struck on this quarter hub, allowing it to have this impression of the quarter. Such a cool and unique error. If you ever spot one, make sure you hold on to it safely because this one sold for $4,200. $336 for this 1972 D 1 cent coin. And now this one was accidentally struck on a Philippines 5-cent blank. This one weighs 2.4 grams. As we know, these 1972 coins should not weigh 2.4 grams. So if you have a 1972 coin, make sure you weigh it because it could be worth a lot of money, just like this one that sold for $336. $8,400 for this 1972 S 10-cent Roosevelt dime graded by PCGS at a proof 70 deep cameo. So S mint marked coins you can see above the date there are from the San Francisco Mint, and typically they produce proof coins. Now, proof coins are not always more rare and valuable, but sometimes they are, especially if they get the 70 grade. Now, to put things into perspective, getting the 70 grade is incredibly challenging and difficult. I do not advise for doing that unless you know what you're doing when it comes to grading. Grading can be a challenging task, so make sure to keep your wits about you. Guys, what you need to know here is that if the coin grades at the perfect grade, it's simply going to be worth a ton of money. That's why this one sold for $8,400. Such a cool coin here. This one sold for $4,560. This 1972 25-cent Washington quarter was graded by NGC at a mint state 62. Some beautiful, beautiful colors here, but essentially what happened here is this coin was struck with a Philippines 5 centimos planchet struck in the obverse. So essentially this planchet was struck into this coin. What happened here is maybe there were two planchets on top of each other and the hub came down and struck on top of both of them. Regardless, definitely a genuine error and it looks beautiful, and that's why someone paid $4,560 for it. $14,400 for this 1972 Lincoln Cent Memorial coin. Now this one is a very high grade of a PCGS mint state 67 plus. Now that plus sign pretty much means that the grader thought that the coin looked very nice, so they gave it the plus designation. It may seem silly, but that small little plus designation will increase the value significantly for the coin. Now, the main reason why this coin sold for so much money is because this is a doubled die obverse coin. Obverse means the front of the coin. Double dies pretty much happen when the hub has an error on it, which causes a variety of coins to get out into circulation with this doubling. Now, what you need to know is that if you look at Liberty on the left, Date at the right, and In God We Trust at the top, you'll see some doubling happening to the letters and numbers there. If you have this on a 1972 coin, you're in luck because this one sold for $14,400. Do not spend the bicentennial quarters that you see in this video because they could be worth a ton of money and you don't even know it. These coins sold for a lot of money and it's a small detail. Look, these bicentennial quarters were a commemorative coin issued by the US Mint in 1975 and 1976 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the United States of America. I'm not going to bore you with details like that, but what's important to know is that this coin was issued in both copper nickel clad and 40% silver versions. Now the copper clad nickel version has a composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, and the silver version has a composition of 80% silver and 20% copper. Now the thing is, these coins were distributed heavily in 1975 and 1976, but what happened was a lot of people thought that these coins would be incredibly valuable one day, so they ended up hoarding them, keeping so many of these in good condition, and the US Mint saw this, so what they did was they simply produced a ton more of these coins, leaving collectors and investors in trouble. Now the reality is today there are some coins worth a ton of money, just like this one that sold for $6,600, and this is why. So the first thing we need to know is that this coin was produced at the San Francisco Mint. You can see that by the small S mint mark at the bottom right hand side of the coin. Now as I said before, this type is the silver type bicentennial coin, which typically will be worth more money, but the main reason is because this coin was graded by PCGS at a mint state 69. Now 69 is an incredibly high grade, and it is only 1 point away from the perfect grade of 70. Now imagine this, if you got the perfect grade of 70, this coin probably would have brought double or triple that amount of $6,600. Now a small caveat, you need to understand that getting your coin graded does cost money and time, and it is not easy to get a high grade like this, but it is possible. If you have a coin like this and it looks like it's in really good condition, it might be worth getting graded, because this one sold for $6,600. I'll spend a few seconds here. This one sold for $3,760, and that's because this 1976 coin was accidentally struck on a cent planchet. That's right, this coin was graded by PCGS at a mint state 61. So from 60 to 70, that is considered the mint state grade. However, this is on the lower spectrum due to all these scuffs and nicks on the coin. Now what happened here, more than likely, whether it was on accident or not, someone put a blank cent planchet piece of metal in the hopper and it struck this design on the coin, which instantly turned this 25-cent coin into a coin worth $3,760, $4,935 for this coin. And now you may be saying to yourself, hey, this 1977 coin is not a bicentennial coin. Well, it sort of is. This coin was improperly cleaned as well, which means someone took some harsh chemicals and put it all over this coin to make it look better, but it did decrease the value quite a bit. So this is a transitional coin. This coin weighs 5.7 grams when the 1977D Washington quarter like this should never weigh that amount. That means that this coin is actually a bicentennial blank that was struck on a 1977 D quarter. Now that D mint mark there at the bottom right hand side of the coin means this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Now the thing is, the bicentennial quarters were never struck in Denver, so we do not know how a planchet like this got all the way to Denver and was struck on this hub. Make sure that you have a scale when it comes to the value of your coins, because the wrong weight like this could mean the difference of a ton of money, because this one sold for $4,935. Now if you want to avoid getting scammed and ripped off and want to learn more about coins, I have a completely free ebook down below, but you don't have to do that. Let's hop into the next coin. This coin sold for $5,040. Now this 1976D 25-cent coin weighs 4.9 grams, which is way off. This coin graded by NGC at a mint state 67. Now you can tell that this coin looks a bit smaller than it should, and that's because this coin was accidentally struck on a 5-cent planchet. The wrong planchet and weight can mean the difference of a ton of money. This coin sold for $5,040. I'll be brief here, but this coin sold for $12,000. Now this 1976 bicentennial quarter was accidentally double struck on a already struck dime. So a little bit complicated there, but essentially what happened here was during the minting process, something happened where a dime got struck and then it went through the process again and got restruck by a bicentennial quarter. Pretty crazy. This one, you can see there's some gashes, pieces missing on the coin. That's from the coin pretty much breaking apart during the minting process. This one still got a very high grade of a 67 by PCGS, which allowed it to sell for $12,000. $27,025 for this 1976 Washington quarter that's actually a $1 Eisenhower dollar that was overstruck on a 1976 quarter. This one was graded by NGC at a mint state 64. If you ever come across a coin like this, keep it safe and understand that there are people out there that will try to get two coins and strike them together with a hammer to make them look like this, when in reality that's not the case. This is a mint error. It is genuine indeed, and it sold for $27,025. You do not want to regret selling the coins in this video without first watching this video and knowing exactly what your coins are worth and how to sell them for the most amount of money. So let's look at this coin right here. There's already 2 of them that have been sold, and each coin sold for $380 on eBay. Now this is your typical shield coin. This is a 2017 D 1 cent shield coin graded by NGC at a mint state 68 red. Now let me show you a quick diagram that shows the difference between red, brown, and brown coins. Now most of the time red coins will bring more money than red, brown, or brown coins, but that's not always the case. Just understand that there also are collectors out there that will collect red, brown, and brown varieties. What you need to know is that the higher the grade your coin is, the more money it will be worth, because this one sold for $380. This coin sold for $500. Now, this is indeed a genuine error, but I'm not entirely convinced that the sale was completely accurate. I can see that there's only 1 bid and the seller has 0 feedback on eBay. Those are some red flags, guys. When it comes to buying or selling on eBay, you want to be very careful in order to avoid getting scammed and ripped off, because there are people out there that will try to take advantage of us, and we do not want that. I have a completely free ebook down below you can get for yourself, but you don't have to do that. But keep your eyes peeled for this genuine shield cent error coin, because they are out there and they're worth a lot of money, just like this one that sold for $500. $700 for this 2019 shield cent penny. Now this one got the perfect grade of 70. It's so challenging to get that grade, but a big reason is because 1, the grade is high, and 2, this is actually from the West Point Mint. Now you can see at the top of the label there it says first W uncirculated cent. Now you can either have your coins minted at the San Francisco, Philadelphia, Denver, and then very rarely the West Point Mint with that W mint mark below the date. If you have a W mint marked coin like this and it's very highly graded, it could be worth a lot of money, because this one sold for $700. $1,155 for this coin. This is a 2020 Lincoln shield cent. Now there is what appears to be a die crack on the back right hand side of the coin. This is another listing that is a bit skeptical to me, because the seller has 0 feedback and there's only 1 bid on the sale, but eBay is saying that this is a genuine sale. I just tend to be very skeptical when I see something like this. A lot of the time someone will get multiple eBay accounts and they'll bid on their own item, or they'll have a friend do it for them, which is a manipulation tactic to try to get people to buy, or they'll see that something sold like this, they think that they have a rare coin too. Long story short, we need to know is just be very careful when buying or selling online, and something like this is definitely not worth $1,155, but it sold for that much. Just be careful, guys. Let's go to the next coin. All right, so this I'll be very quick on. This coin sold for $6,820. This is essentially a genuine 1871 Indian cent coin. Now these coins were introduced between 1859 and 1909. The Indian cent coin features Liberty wearing a feather headdress on the obverse or front of the coin, and a wreath of oak leaves and an olive branch on the reverse side. These coins consist of a composition of 88% copper and 12% nickel, and have a diameter of 19 millimeters. The coin weighs 3.11 grams and has a thickness of 1.55 millimeters. What you need to know is that if this coin grades highly like it did at a mint state of 65, it's going to sell for a lot of money. If you have one, you got to keep it safe and get it graded, because this one sold for $6,820. So this 2017 coin is a shield cent coin, and as you can see by the label, this is the first P mint mark cent coin. The P stands for the Philadelphia Mint, where these coins are minted. Now the reason why this coin sold for $1,700 is because it graded at the mint state 69 grade. Now there's already 3 of these that sold for $1,700, but if you're able to get your coin graded and it grades this highly, then you're in for a real treat, because again, $1,700 for 1 little penny. People don't want us to know this information that could literally make you a lot of money, and it's typically the smallest detail that I'm going to show you in this video. I'll keep it very brief, to the point, and simple, not to make it overly complicated. Just understand, if you find one of these bills, I highly recommend understanding that there are people out there looking to take advantage of us who don't know this type of information information. So this bill on the screen right here sold for $3,600. Now, the first important fact is this was graded by PMG at a 58. That means there is one fold at least somewhere on the bill. So guys, do not fold your bill whatsoever. Keep it very flat. Sometimes I recommend even keeping them in a book if you don't have anything for the time being, but don't forget about them because I've found rare bills in old books before. So please don't forget where you put them or what page you put them on. But if you're familiar with my channel, you may already see what's going on this bill. Pause the video right now and leave a comment down below if you see what's happening here. Okay, so here we go. This is the main reason. This is a mismatched serial number error. If you look at the bill, there are two serial numbers at the top left and bottom right. One of them says 90508, one of them says 90598. It's that smallest detail that can mean the difference of thousands of dollars because this one sold for $3,600. $7,200 for this $100 bill from 1928. Now it's important to know that 1928 was the first year they started producing these small size Federal Reserve currency just like this. Before this, they had what's called large size paper money, but more on that in a different video. This bill is also what collectors call a numeral type bill. Now typically there will be a letter on the left hand side of the bill in that district seal, but this one has a number, the number 12. But the main reason is because this is a star note, but not your normal star note. It's really hard to see, but this is actually a double inverted star error. So the star was placed upside down. I'll show you a diagram right now. Even if you don't have an inverted star, if you have a bill that looks like this, it could be really valuable because this one sold for $7,200. I'll spend just seconds here, but this bill sold for $90,000. This is an 1863 $100 bill. Now this is a large size bill, and this was produced during the Confederate era of paper money. So a lot of these bills got destroyed, and when it comes to high denominations like this, only the extremely wealthy at the time were able to handle them because money in general was very scarce back in the day. The moral of the story is on this bill is if you have one, you need to make sure that you're not getting scammed and ripped off. We're all about educating here, so if you want to join and fight back against scammers, you can get your completely free ebook down below, learning about coins and paper money, but you don't have to do that. Just make sure that you know what you're doing. That way, if you come across a bill like this, you don't get taken because that's the last thing I want for you guys. $8,812. Now this bill right here is what collectors call a mule note. Now remember earlier I said that typically you will see a large letter. The previous one had a number. This one has a letter K. So this is not a numeral type. But when you think of a real life mule, what do you think of? Well, a mule is essentially a combination of a donkey and a horse. That's essentially what a mule note is too. The front and the back of the bill should have never went together. Now the question is, how do you know if you have one of these bills? Well, you're going to pay close attention to the front plate and the back plate number. Typically there's going to be a back plate range that you need to look for, and or the size will be different. So the size of the back plate numbers will be different than the size of the front plate numbers. What you need to know is that mule notes are typically worth more money, and that's why this one sold for $8,812. So this $100 bill was produced for the series of 2017. Now an important fact to know is that just because your bill says 2017 on it does not mean that's when it was actually produced. The reason for that is because when they're producing these plates that they use to print the bills, they don't want to have to update the printing plate every year because that takes a lot of work and effort. So what they typically do is they'll put a date on these plates and then produce bills for years afterwards until the plates run out and they need to produce new plates. What you need to know on this bill is that it sold for $7,200, and here's why. So if you look at the back plate number, essentially what that means is that's the position that the plate is on for the sheet. A lot of that is internal information. Now these modern bills have a harder time of having errors simply because the quality control process at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing where they produce these bills has become a lot more automized with robots, so it's harder for mistakes to get by. But remember, the previous note I talked about a mule note. Now there are none known, but if there was to be a mule note for these $100 bills that are modern, it would be incredibly valuable. Now look at the front plate number. Before the large A, you're going to see a small FW. If you do not see an FW there, that means your bill is produced at the Washington, D.C. facility. If you see a small FW there, that means it was produced at the Fort Worth facility. It's important to know that because if you have one from D.C. and Fort Worth with the same exact serial number, that is an error and it could be worth a lot of money. Now, depending on how many were produced at what facility will dictate the supply and demand for the specific bills. But the main reason why this bill sold for $7,200 is because it's a solid number 8 serial number. Now, the number 8 is generally seen as a lucky lucky number in different countries, like in Asia. If you have a bill with a lot of 8s on it like this, it could be worth a ton of money, so keep it safe, don't fold it, because this bill with a solid number 8 serial number from 2017 sold for $7,200. You do not want to miss the small detail I go over in this video about these rare dollar bills that sold for a lot of money. I'm going to keep this very brief and to the point, and also make it simple and easy to understand, because other people tend to make this much more complicated than it actually is. Most who know what to look for don't want us to know about this, so pay close attention and save this video. But let's hop right in. This is a $1 bill from 1988. This bill sold for $4,200, and it's not because it's a star note, but a small detail. Now I'll go over a few things really quickly to make sure we're all on the same page. Now, just because your bill says 1988 does not mean that's when it was exactly produced. For example, this bill could have been produced in 1989, 1990, or a different year after that, because the printing facility did not change the date on the press. Most people think just because your bill has a date on it, that's when the bill was produced. That's not the case. That's mainly important because of this. The 1988 series is one of the dates that has what's called a web note. Long story short, the normal way to produce banknotes is to print the back of the bill, then the front of the bill, and then the overprint, which is the final print. When it comes to these web notes, they were produced the same way that newspapers would produce newspaper. What you need to know is that there were a ton of mistakes and errors on these bills, so they quickly stopped this production style. They thought it would produce more paper money due to the demand, which it did, but it also just caused a bunch of headaches for them. So how do you tell if you have one of these bills that's worth a lot of money? There are 3 ways, and if you have any one of them, then you have all 3. The first way is looking at Washington's portrait. It's going to be washed out. I'm going to show you some quick diagrams of what that looks like. Next is the front plate number. Now what you need to know about that is that typically it will have a number and a letter, or multiple numbers and letters, but this web notes only have a number there. Last, and one of the easiest ways to tell, is if you look on the back of the bill to the right of "In God We Trust," you will see the plate position. Typically it is not in that location, so pay close attention to that, because remember, this bill sold for $4,200. This bill sold for $24,000, and it's graded at a PCGS 40 PPQ. 40 means that there is typically 3 or 4 folds on the bill, along with some handling and wrinkles. What you need to know about condition is that you do not want to fold or damage your bill, because it will decrease the value. Leave a comment down below if you're able to see what's wrong with this bill. I'll give you a second, but okay, let's jump into it. You can pause the video and leave a comment, but this is exactly why right here. So if you're looking at the suffix of the serial number, you're going to see the top right one has an L and the bottom left one has a star. This is what collectors call a mismatched serial number error. On top of that, this is a web note, as we discussed previously, and these things combined allowed it to sell for $24,000. Now, if it was in a better grade, it would have sold for a lot more money, guys, so keep them very safe. I'll be very brief on this note, but this is a genuine 1899 silver certificate $1 bill. They call this the Black Eagle note. Now, this bill sold for $45,600. Now, typically, a Black Eagle in really beat up condition can be worth anywhere from $50 to $100. The reason why this one sold for so much money is because it graded at the 69 grade. That's only 1 point away from the perfect grade of 70. A cool fact about these bills is that back in the day, you could actually bring them to a bank and exchange them for their face value $1 of silver. You could literally go to a bank and give them this dollar bill, and they would give you silver back. They have the same thing with gold, but nowadays they're not legal tender and you cannot do that, unfortunately. But long story short, if you have one of these bills, make sure you keep it safe, and remember to watch out for scammers, because they are out there trying to take advantage of us, because this bill sold for $45,600. $2,040 for this $1 bill. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is the specimen stamps on the front and the back of the bill. Now, to keep a long story short, what the Bureau of Engraving and Printing did is the government wanted to send these bills out to different countries around the world that accepted US federal currency and give them a specimen note of each denomination. And by that denomination, I just mean $1, $2, $5, $10, etc. And the reason they did this is because if they're accepting paper money from the public, they do not want to be accepting counterfeit bills. So this gave them a good baseline of what a genuine bill looked like. What you need to know is that specimen notes typically always come with a fancy serial number, like the one you see here, going from 2 consecutively all the way up to 9. If you have one, it could be worth a good amount of money, because this one sold for $2,040. If you want to get away from society blinding us from the truth about coins and paper money, get your free coin ebook down below, and I'll see you in the next video. How many exist? Quarter worth a ton of money, guys. This is a 1965 25-cent Washington quarter that sold for $5,880, and I'm going to tell you exactly why, because of the smallest detail that you don't want to miss on this quarter. Now, as you can see by the NGC label, it says cleaned, and that is a bad thing when it comes to coins. Now, there are some rare instances that cleaning a coin is a good thing, but most of the time it will simply decrease the value. In the coin collecting world, people do not like cleaned coins. If this would have been in a better graded condition, it would have brought a whole lot more money. This coin graded at AU, which means almost uncirculated, which is telling me that this coin was out in circulation and was picked up in pocket change by someone. They noticed that the coin was wrong and they said, hey, this coin is actually worth a lot more than just 25 cents. And they were right. Now, how do you tell if you have one of these coins? Well, there's not that many of them out there. There's only about 12 of them graded by NGC, and there were millions of these coins produced. Now, some people don't want you to know this information so they can rip you off. That's what I'm trying to avoid here. If you want to learn more about coins, I have a completely free ebook down below, but you don't have to do that. Now, the reason why this coin sold for $5,880 is because it is a transitional silver planchet coin. This coin was struck on a 90% silver planchet and it weighs 6.3 grams. So the weight of this 1965 quarter is incorrect. I highly advise getting a scale of some sort. If you don't have one, I have a link below you can check out, but again, don't have to do that. If you have a 1965 quarter and it weighs 6.3 grams like this one, you could have a 90% silver planchet coin that's transitional that should not have been struck on it that sold for $5,880 bucks. YouTube has a complex algorithm that knows exactly which video you should watch next, and that video is on the screen, so click on that video and I'll see you inside. Someone found a penny coin worth $60,000. Can you tell why? If not in this video, I'll tell you everything you need to know about it to make sure that if you find one, you get the full value of your coin and you do not accidentally spend it. Without wasting any time, we're gonna hop right into this video, guys. I won't spend too much time on these first few coins, but this one little penny that you see on your screen has been in circulation for a long time. That means it passed a lot of people's hands before someone noticed that it was actually worth a good amount of money. So this coin was graded by a third-party company called NGC at a very good 10. Now, personally, it doesn't look very good to me, but that's just what they call the 10 grade on the grading scale. And remember, the highest achievable grade in grading is 70. This one is on the lower spectrum and it sold for $180 for a little penny. So if you have a 1914 D coin like this, you can see that small little D mint mark below the date. That stands for the Denver Mint. If you have a coin like this, even in low grade, it's probably worth good money because again, this coin sold for $180. I wanted to show this example because it's a great expression of why the condition of the coin really does matter. Same exact type of coin, it's a 1914 D, but this one was graded by NGC at a very fine 25. So it's a visually nicer looking coin. The grade is better, and that's why this one little penny wheat coin sold for $348. Now this coin sold for $2,400, and here's why. This is a 1911 S wheat penny graded by PCGS at a mint state 65. So as I said, the highest achievable grade is 70. This one's only 5 points away. It's also very important to know that 1909 was the first year they ever started issuing the wheat cent penny coins. So this is pretty close to that date. A good rule of thumb is the older your coin is in, the better the condition, the more money it's generally going to be worth. This one you can see also has a red hue going on. That's what collectors like to call toning. That occurs when the air will oxidize with the metals in the coin and change the color. Do keep in mind this only really matters when it comes to high graded coins. I'm talking about the toning. Condition is so important, so make sure that if you have a coin like this, or any coin for that matter, you're handling it with care so you don't damage it and decrease the value, because you could have a coin with a lot of money just like this one that sold for $2,400. $18,000 for this 1910 1 cent wheat coin graded by PCGS at a proof 67 red with a CAC sticker. So I'll break this coin down very quickly. As I said before, 1909 was the first year of issue, so this one's a 1910, very close. Now you notice there's no mint mark around around the date. That means this coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint. Now, I also called this a proof coin. Now, what is a proof coin? Well, proof coins are distinguished by the way that they look and the way they're produced. I'll show you an example of what a proof coin looks like versus a business strike coin. Now, most of the time, proof coins can be worth more money than regular issued coins. This one also has a bit of toning going on with it. Now, toning can either increase or decrease the value of your coin based on the eye appeal. So it's very subjective because some people like the look and some people don't really like the look. But this one graded at a proof 67. That's so high. It's only 3 points away from the perfect grade of 70. It's so challenging to get that grade. Also, this got the red designation. Now, a lot of the time when these coins are being produced, they start off as red coins and make their way down to brown based on environmental conditions. But honestly, there are some times where the coins are produced as brown coins. What you need to know is that red coins typically are worth more money. Now, here is a diagram of what that looks like. You can either have a red-brown, or a brown coin. Some collectors like to collect all types of the colors there, but to each their own. Now, this one also has a CAC sticker. Now, CAC is another third-party company that will look at the coin in the holder after it's graded, and if they think it's worthy, they will put their sticker on the holder. Now, it seems like a small deal, but it actually is not. It's a big deal because you don't always get that sticker, and that small little sticker will increase the value of the coin quite dramatically. All these things combined allowed this one little penny to sell for $18,000. Now, here's that coin that sold for $60,000. After this coin, I've got one more that sold for a lot more money, so stick around for that one. But the reason why this 1909 coin sold for $60,000 is this. So as you can see, this has a CAC sticker, and we know what the CAC sticker means. Now, what most people don't know is that 1909 has multiple varieties of the coin. This one, as you can see, has no mint mark below the date. This coin will either have a 1909 no mint mark or a 1909 S mint mark. A lot of the time, the S mint mark coins are going to be worth more money, but this is an exception. The biggest reason why this coin sold for so much money is because, one, it's a proof coin. We know what a proof coin is as well. This one graded at the 66 grade, but this one also has a small detail that you don't want to miss that's on the back bottom center of the coin. That is a VDB. Those letters are the initials of the engraver of this coin, so the person that designed this coin. Now, what you need to know is that there are, like I said, multiple varieties. You have a 1909 1-cent coin, you have a 1909 VDB coin like this one, then you have the 1909 S coin, then the 1909 S VDB coin. What you need to know is that VDB is the one you want, and if you have it in a high grade, it's going to sell for a lot of money, just like this one that sold for $60,000. $240,000 for this 1943 coin. Now, this one sold really recently on January 12th of 2023. Depending on when you're watching this video, this coin is always going to be worth a ton of money. So this 1943 coin was graded by PCGS and an AU50. That's a pretty low grade for this coin, but it doesn't really matter because of the rarity of this coin. So pretty much in 1943, they started to transition these coins from a zinc-coated steel planchet into this bronze planchet. So pretty much they needed bronze for ammunition, so they stopped the production of bronze coins, transitioned into a zinc-coated steel planchet, which this one should have been struck on, and then transitioned back into the copper coin later. Long story short, if your 1943 coin looks like this, you need to get it looked at by some professionals because it could be rare. Now, the probability of you having a coin like this worth $240,000 is slim to none, but it is possible. Keep your eyes peeled for the 1943 coin that was struck on a bronze planchet because this one sold for $240,000. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video on the screen. I will see you in the next video. All right, these bicentennial quarters were produced in large quantities back in the day, and everyone started hoarding them, thinking that one day they would be worth a lot of money, and some of those people were right. Most people have no idea what to look for on their bicentennial quarter to see if it's worth money or not. This example that you see on the screen right now sold for $2,500. That's right, $2,500, and it sold on eBay not too long ago, and I'm going to show you what I think about the coin and what you need to be aware of if you're buying or selling coins and how to get the most money for your coin. So here is the thing. On eBay, you have to be very careful when buying or selling because there are some people out there that will try to take advantage of certain situations. There are these things called mint errors that will happen during the minting process that can increase the value of the coin. When I'm looking at this specific coin that sold for $2,500, I do not see anything specific that would trigger a reaction in me to say, wow, this is a valuable coin. To me, this is what I would consider to be normal circulation and a little bit of environmental damage. By that, I just mean nothing out of the ordinary, probably went out in people's pockets, might have sat at the the bottom of a coin jar for quite some time. Who knows exactly? But it's a bit scary when I see coins like this sell for a lot of money online, because I don't know exactly if this coin was actually sold and some victim bought it for $2,500, or the seller tried to manipulate the market to make it appear like this coin was worth more than it actually is. What you need to know is that if you're buying or selling your coins online, you need to be very careful, because to me, this coin does not have any sort of error on it that would equate to it being worth $2,500. I won't spend too much time here, but same thing on this coin. It actually sold for the same amount of money, $2,500. Now, when you see pictures like this online, it's usually a sign that the person does not have a good quality listing on eBay. I would typically stay away from listings like this. It only had one bid on it, so I don't know if the seller got his friend to bid on it and then they canceled the listing. All you got to know is that if someone was to not know exactly what to look for on a coin, they could easily get scammed if they were seeing a coin like this sell for a lot of money, thinking that they should be buying them for $2,500, just like this one sold on eBay for. So when a lot of people see this coin, they may think that this is simply damage on the coin. There are people out there that will get two coins and a hammer and strike them together to try to replicate this sort of error, but that's not the case at all for this coin that sold for $28,200, and I'll tell you why right now. So this 1976 coin is actually a $1 bicentennial dollar that was overstruck on a 1976 bicentennial quarter that was graded by NGC in Mint State 64. So I could see how this error could occur because they are the same year but different denomination. By denomination, I mean one is a 25-cent coin and one is a $1 coin. Regardless of whether this happened on purpose or not is besides the fact, but if you have a bicentennial quarter, leave a comment below saying bicentennial, and just remember that if you find a bicentennial quarter, it has to have one or multiple things going on for it. It should be in a very high graded condition. There are times that high graded coins will bring a lot of money, and or it has to be an error coin just like this one that graded by NGC and Mint State 64 and sold for $28,200. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video on the screen. Click on that video and I'll see you inside. Do you have a beat up nickel like this one? Well, believe it or not, this coin sold for $1,980, and in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why it did, what you need to look out for on your coin, and how to sell it if you come across one. All right, so this is a 1943 S 5-cent Jefferson nickel. Now, it's important to know that on the back top center of the coin, you'll see that S mint mark. A lot of the time, coins have a smaller mint mark than this, but essentially what you need to know is that that S mint mark stands for the San Francisco Mint where this coin was produced. Now, this coin was graded by NGC at an AU 55 with the full steps on the back. Let me break that down for you really quick. So the highest grade in grading is 70. This one got the almost uncirculated 55 grade, which means this coin was more than likely found out in circulation in pocket change. So these coins are out there, guys. Now, if this coin would have graded higher, it would have brought way more money than $1,980. Also, this has the full steps on the back. What that means is above Monticello there, you'll see the full steps. So during the minting process, that is a very challenging area to strike properly because it's very detailed and intricate, and also it is the highest point on the coin, which means during circulation it gets worn down the quickest. So collectors really like to see that, but remember, it only really matters on high grade example coins. So why did this coin sell for so much money? So it has the full steps on the back, but the biggest reason why is because this coin, if you haven't noticed already, was accidentally struck on a zinc plated steel cent coin. So 1943 was a transitional period for the US Mint where they were taking bronze penny coins and saving that bronze for ammunition and using zinc coated steel coins instead. What happened here was someone accidentally used this coin in the wrong hopper, causing it to get struck as a Jefferson nickel. Now, an easy way to tell if you have one of these coins is weighing it or just looking at the size of the coin. You can see this coin is much smaller because it is a steel cent penny blank. So if you have one, keep your eyes peeled because it could be worth a lot of money. The best way I recommend selling a coin like this is getting the opinion of at least 3 different people before you sell it. It might be worth getting graded like this person did. A local coin shop would likely be able to help you with that if they are a dealer with NGC or PCGS. Do understand that these coins are very rare and very valuable. Do not spend it because again, this coin sold for $1,980. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video on the screen. Click on that video and I will see you inside. Some people think that $2 bills are super rare and valuable, which definitely is the case sometimes. times. In this video, I'm going to show you some $2 bills that sold for a lot of money, and I'll tell you exactly what to look for to make sure that you don't accidentally spend one of these $2 bills. Now, here's the thing. A lot of $2 bills are not rare. You can go to your local bank and pick up a pack of $2 bills. That's what I do, and I will literally pay with them at the store or hand them out as a tip when I go to dinner. But look at this $2 bill that sold for $1,527.50. That's right, for this $2 bill. So why did it sell for so much money? The first thing that's important to see here is the fact that this bill was produced at the Fort Worth, Texas facility where they produce paper money. Now, how do you tell if you have a $2 bill that was produced at Fort Worth? Well, if you look in this location right here, you're going to see a small FW. Depending on how many bills were produced at the Fort Worth facility versus the Washington facility can play a factor with how much these bills are actually worth. If your bill does not have FW anywhere on it, that means it was produced at the Washington, D.C. facility. But the main reason why it sold for so much money is because this bill graded at the perfect grade of 70, which is really challenging to achieve. You can see this bill was graded by PCGS at the 70 grade. If it did not grade this highly, it would have brought a lot less money, but because it graded at the perfect grade, it sold for $1,527.50, $29,900 for this $2 bill that graded by PMG a 58 EPQ. That means that there is a fold or a bend somewhere on this bill, which is a good thing to bring up because if you fold or damage your bill, it has a tear in it, it will simply decrease the value. That is why I recommend keeping your bill somewhere safe. If you find a bill and you have nowhere to keep it for the time being, you can put it in a book to keep it flat, but be careful, don't forget about it, because I've purchased books in the past and found some rare currency in them before, so just don't forget about them. But the main reason why this bill sold for $29,900 is because it is a serial number 1 bill and it's a star note. I'll keep this really brief, but star notes happen when there's an error on a sheet of bills or a mistake. Quality control manager will pick that out and destroy that sheet and produce a new sheet of bills with a new serial number, but it will also have a star at the end. This just so happened to be the first serial number in that sheet. You can see a bunch of zeros and then a number 1. This is considered to be a fancy serial number, and people will pay money to try to get a bill like this, and if it would have graded higher, it would have brought a whole lot more money than $29,900. These are really cool. So this $2 bill sold for $2,530, and it's because this is a specimen note. Now, what is a specimen note? Pretty much the US would give these bills out to different countries that accepted US paper money as a way to show what a genuine bill looked like. Now, you got to be careful because there are people out there that will try to replicate this, add a red specimen stamp to the bill, and try to pass it as a specimen note. Now, I would not recommend doing this whatsoever. This is not advice, but it is against the law to deface any US federal currency, so do not do that. Plus, morally, it's just wrong to do. But a surefire way to tell if you have a specimen note that's genuine is if the serial number looks like this. It is an ascending ladder. It goes from 2 to 9 consecutively. If you have a specimen note like this, it could be really rare and valuable because this one sold for $2,530. $19,200 for this double print error $2 bill. Now, this is one of the most highly altered bills I've ever seen before. What people will do is they'll get the $2 bill, put it in their printer, and try to replicate this error. Again, I advise against doing that. The only way to really sell your bill for the most amount of money will be to send it off to a third-party grading company like PMG. That way you get the most money for your paper money, and the person buying the bill knows that it is indeed a genuine bill. Now, just to be very brief, the back of the bill is always printed first, then the front of the bill is printed second, and then the third and final print here that you see doubled is called the overprint, and it is the last print on a bill. If you have one, you could have a bill with a lot of money because this one sold for $19,200, $63,250 for this 1928 genuine Red Seal legal tender bill. So all you really need to know about this is it is indeed a real bill. A lot of people that see this will probably think it's fake, but it's not, it's real. This was the first year they ever produced the $2 bill in this small size format like this. This is also a star note, which makes it even more rare. And on top of that, it does not have a single fold on it. It graded at the 65 EPQ grade. Beautiful note, very high grade, super hard to come by. If you have one, you could technically spend it. It is genuine legal tender note currency, but I would advise against that. There's way more collector value here because this one sold for $63,250. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video above. Click on that video and I'll see you inside. Do not spend the coins that you see in this video because they sold sold for a ton of money, and I'm going to show you exactly why they sold for this much money. So this first listing here has a coin that sold for $1,750. Now, I'm going to be going over the pictures that they listed on the listing. Now, luckily they were very detailed, and they even put a description saying that this person inherited their grandfather's coin collection in 2013. They're just getting around to putting some time and research in them and trying to present on eBay to the best of their ability what they think is going on. So they highlighted some areas, they circled and pointed out some areas that could be worth noting. Now, one thing that not many people know when it comes to doubling on a coin is that sometimes there's what's called machine doubling that can look like genuine doubling, but it's just damage and it does not increase the value of the coin. What you need to know is that if your doubling on the coin looks like a step, then that is mechanical or machine doubling. And if it looks like a duplicate of the lettering or numbers, then it probably is true doubling. This is what some collectors also call the drooling George error, where it looks like he has drool coming out from his lip. Now, personally, I would not pay $1,750 for this coin, but it looks like someone did, because again, this listing with this coin and all these pictures, it sold for $1,750. Similar thing going on this one. This person said that they found this coin in a bankroll, which is pretty cool. It sold for $1,900. As you can see, this is a 2022 P quarter error with drooling George. There's also the flower in the hair, as some people like to point out. It's a bit hard to see, but if you look closely, you can see it. Now, I do like the fact that this person took a lot of photos of the coin. They're pretty zoomed in. They likely have some sort of USB microscope. If you're looking to get some supplies, I have a link down below, but you don't have to click on that. What you should be doing is doing your own homework and research before buying or selling any coins like this. The reality is some of these coins really can bring a lot of money. My biggest thing is just making sure that you guys do not get scammed or ripped off when you're buying or selling these coins, because again, this one little coin sold for $1,900. Here's a Sally Ride 2022 quarter that sold for $2,500. Now, the listing says most errors seen so far on this one coin, and it's a bit skeptical to me when a seller has zero feedback and the listing has only one bid. It is definitely a red flag to me. I personally do not see any sort of error on this coin. I do see some environmental damage happening to the coin. It looks like a lot of nicks and gashes occurred that could be confusing to some people. Now, I hope that nobody paid $2,500 for this coin, but it is a possibility that someone did. What could have happened is this person could have got another account or their friend to get on to eBay and pretend to buy the coin, then cancel the sale. The thing is, it still shows up in a sold listing, so people look at this and say, hey, that coin sold for $2,500, so my coin must be worth the same amount of money, when in reality, it's not. So if you have a coin like this, it's probably not worth money, because this looks like just damage to me, and it sold for $2,500. This coin sold for $3,000. This is a 2022 S 25-cent Anime Wong first day of issue coin graded by NGC at a mint state 68. So these coins come from the US Mint. You can get them brand new. Now, what likely happened here is someone purchased a lot of these coins, sent them directly to NGC, and was hoping to get a really high grade, and they did. It is so challenging to get this 70 grade. This person got a coin 2 points away, and that's why it sold for $3,000. $4,999 for this 2022 Maya Angelou, excuse me if I mispronounced that, coin graded at a mint state 69. So the reason why this coin sold for so much money is because it is a population 1 coin. That means that there are no other coins graded at 69, and there's no other coin graded higher. So out of the tens of thousands of coins that people submitted to NGC, this is the only one that graded that highly. Now, how do you get this high of a grade? Well, it really comes down to the condition of the coin. If the coin has no nicks or gashes anywhere at all, then it could be worth getting graded. Just understand that a lot of the time, most people should not be submitting their coins to get graded. Why do I say this? Well, because you should be doing your own homework and research and understanding fully what the coin should grade before you send it off to get graded. Now, when it comes to coins that are high graded like this, even people that have been doing it for decades still cannot get the grading down exactly how these grading companies do it. A lot of it is a bit of luck, if I'm being honest, especially in a grade like this at a 69 that sold for $4,999. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video video on the screen, click on that video and I'll see you inside. If you don't know exactly what to be looking for on your Roosevelt dime coin, then you could be accidentally spending these coins that are worth a whole lot of money. So what do you actually need to be looking for? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you right now. So let's hop right into it. Again, these coins can be worth a ton of money. So this 1956 10-cent Roosevelt dime was graded by a third-party company called NGC at a mint state 67. That's a very high grade. The highest achievable grading is 70. That's only 3 points away. Now here's the odd thing, guys. When you flip the coin over on the back, you're going to see a lot of brown on the left-hand side of the coin. That's called toning and oxidation. So if the coin looks immaculate, but it has a little bit of toning like this, it can still get a high grade, even though I think it looks pretty bad personally. Now, a big thing on this coin is the fact that it has the full bands on the back. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're looking at the torch in the center back of the coin, you'll see a total of 4 horizontal bands. Those are essentially the highest point on the coin. They get worn down the quickest and they are the hardest for the mint to strike. Now, here's something very important to know. These full bands only really matter on uncirculated coins like this one. If the coin is very beat up and a low grade, it's not really going to matter too much unless it's an error coin or something like that. So this 1956 dime that has the full bands on the back, graded by NGC at a mint state 67, sold for $228. This one sold for $1,560. Now this 1960D 10-cent Roosevelt dime was graded by NGC at a mint state 68. So as you can see, this one has some pretty crazy toning happening, which is the color all around the coin. Now pretty much how that happens is depending on where the coin is stored can influence the oxidation process that happens when the air will react with the metals in the coin, causing the coin to look like this. Now if the coin looks really nice with this oxidation, then people will pay more money. Someone obviously liked this coin, but this coin also has a D mint mark. Now that D mint mark's on the back bottom center of the coin. That stands for the Denver Mint. Now sometimes you're going to see an S mint mark, the D mint mark. Very rarely will you see a W mint mark standing for the West Point Mint, and on certain coins you'll see a P mint mark, but most of the time that P mint mark is not there, which stands for the Philadelphia Mint. What you need to know is that depending on where the coin is produced will dictate how many coins were produced, which weigh into the supply and demand for that specific mint run. So this one also has the full torch or full bands on the back, but honestly when it comes to Roosevelt dimes, for the most part, unless it's an error coin, the biggest contributing factor to the value is going to be the condition and how highly it grades. This one only graded 2 points away from the perfect grade of 70, and that's why it sold for $1,560. $16,800 for this 1950 10-cent Roosevelt dime graded by NGC at a proof 69. So when it comes to proof coins, pretty much the way to tell if you have one is if the backdrop of the coin looks very shiny and lustrous and almost like a mirror, just like this one. Now I'm going to show you a diagram showing the difference between a business strike and a proof coin. Now not always, but a lot of the time proof coins in high grade will be worth more money depending on when they were produced. This one only graded 1 point away from the perfect grade of 70, and that's why this proof coin from 1950 with no mint mark sold for $16,800. $45,600 for this 10-cent Roosevelt dime that was graded by PCGS at a proof 69. So a fun fact on this coin, which can get slightly confusing. So we know this is a proof coin, and a lot of the time proof coins should be produced at the San Francisco Mint. Now there are times that the coins are produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Now what does that mean for you? Most San Francisco minted coins have an S mint mark. Most Philadelphia minted coins have no mint mark or a P mint mark, which stands for, again, the Philadelphia Mint. Long story short, this 1968 Roosevelt dime should have an S mint mark, but it does not have one. So here's the issue that I run into a lot with subscribers on my channel is they'll come to me with a really rare coin saying, hey, I have this 1968 Roosevelt dime I saw on your channel. And when they show it to me or they show it to a local coin shop, they say this is just a normal looking coin. There are some people out there that will take a 1968 Philadelphia minted coin, polish it to make it look like this rare variety of a coin here, when in the grand scheme of things, it's actually not. So again, what you need to be looking out for is a 1968 Roosevelt dime with no mint mark that has this proof mirror background to it, because again, this coin sold for $45,600. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video on the screen. I will see you guys in the next one. Whatever you do, do not spend this 1965 1 cent link Lincoln coin that sold for $6,600. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this 1965 penny that someone probably found and had no idea how much it was actually worth. Here's the thing, there are tons of coins out there that are rare and valuable, and people simply don't know what to look for. Without wasting any more time, let's hop right into this video. So this 1965 Lincoln cent coin was graded by NGC at an AU 58. That means almost uncirculated. The highest achievable grade in grading is 70. That means this coin went out into circulation. It passed people's hands before someone found it and said, hey, this coin is actually rare. So how can you tell if you have one of these coins? Something important to know is that just because the color of your coin looks like this does not mean it's rare. There are times when environmental damage can occur on the coin, causing it to change color. In this situation, that is not the case. This coin was actually struck on a silver 10-cent blank planchet. Now, a surefire way to find out if you have a coin like this is to get a scale. That's right, you want to be able to weigh your coins to see what the weight of them is. Now remember this, the US Mint has a 10% variability acceptance rate when it comes to the weight of the coin. That means it could weigh 10% less or more than the actual weight. In this case, this coin weighs 2.5 grams, which is way off what a Lincoln cent coin should typically weigh. If you have a rare 1965 coin like this, it might be worth sending off to get graded because again, this coin sold for $6,600. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video on the screen. I'll see you guys in the next video. When most people find a Sacagawea dollar coin like the ones in this video, they think that they've hit it rich, which honestly in some situations can be the truth. In this video, I'm going to show you a few coins and tell you exactly what you need to be looking out for to see if they're actually rare or not. So back in the day, Cheerios, the type of cereal, had a giveaway and they actually put some of these coins in the boxes of cereal. This coin you're looking at on the screen sold for $6,000 and it's considered to be one of those Cheerios dollar coins. Here's the thing, if the coin is in immaculate condition like this one right here, it could be worth good money. 70 is the highest achievable grade in grading. This one was graded by PCGS at a mint state, 68, so it's only 2 points away from that grade. Now, easier said than done. Most people that send their coins off to get graded end up wasting money and time because they don't know how to look at the condition of their coin. Again, here's the thing, most of the time, the coins like this that are being found are in pretty poor condition and are not worth sending off to get graded. Let's look at these coins really quick. These are good examples of coins that are in heavily circulated condition. They're not in the best shape whatsoever, and most of the time these coins are only worth a few dollars. Now you can visually see the difference between a coin that sold for $1 or $2 versus a coin that sold for $6,000. So condition is king when it comes to these 2000p Sacagawea dollar coins. Make sure that if you have one in good condition, you keep it safe, get it evaluated before sending it off to get graded, because you could have a coin worth a ton of money. If you enjoyed this video, I'll see you guys in the next video up above on the screen. $4,200 for the smallest little detail on a $1 bill that you need to keep your eyes peeled for so you don't accidentally spend that dollar bill. Look, there are tons of people out there that have no idea what to look for, and in this video, I'm going to show you a few key things to look out for to make sure that you don't miss one of these rare $1 bills. So I'll go through this one pretty quickly, but this $1 bill sold for $468. Now, what's important to know during the printing process is that the back of the bills are printed first, then the front, and then the third and final print is the overprint, which is that green and black ink on the bill, the seal on the left with the letter F, and the green seal on the right with the serial numbers. So to keep this one brief, what happened here is when you flip the bill over, you can see that the first print was never produced. Now you have to be aware that some people will see this video and try to replicate an error like this by shaving down one side and thinking that they can sell it for a good amount of money. That's not a good idea for multiple reasons. One, you're defacing US federal currency, which is illegal. Two, if you try to sell it, that's fraud because you're being deceptive and manipulative, intentionally doing something like this. And three, you really want to send it off to a third-party company like PMG to certify it, because most people who know what they're looking at will simply not buy a bill unless it is certified by a company like PMG, because there are people out there that will try to manipulate bills like that. This is indeed a genuine $1 bill from 1977 and it sold for $468. This one sold for $660. When you're looking at the back of the bill, there is nothing that really shows you why, but when you flip it over, you can see that that part of the bill was obstructed. So the first print is the back and it's fine, and then the second print had some sort of obstruction happening, and you can see that the third print was fine because it still got produced fully on the bill. Now again, when it comes to error notes, most of the time I would highly recommend sending them to PMG as long as it's worth getting graded. Something as dramatic as this I would recommend because it sold for $660, $4,200 for this $1 bill. So this $1 bill is from 1988 and it is a star note, but that's not the main reason, but I'll tell you really quickly what a star note is. So during the printing process, if there's an error on a sheet of bills, a quality control manager will put a large red X and they will signify that this sheet needs to be destroyed. From there, the sheet of bills gets destroyed and they produce a new sheet with a star at the end of the serial number signifying that it's a replacement sheet of bills. That's important for bookkeeping purposes and to make sure that no theft is happening at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing where they produce these bills. One of the main reasons why this bill sold for so much money is because it is indeed a web note. Now, to keep a long story short, web notes were produced when the BEP was trying to produce bills at a faster rate. They used what's called a web press, which is the same printing technology they used to produce newspapers. Nothing good came of this process because there were a ton of errors that happened on the bills. So it ended up taking more time and resources than they wanted. Now, how do you know if you have a web note? Well, there are 3 different ways, but if you have any of these indicators, then you have all 3. The first one is Washington's face will look a bit washed out. I'll throw up a diagram right now. So you can see there's a clear difference there. Now, the next thing is going to be the front plate number. Now, that front plate number is on the bottom right-hand side of the bill. For web notes, it's only going to have a small number, but on normal bills, it's going to look like this. You can see the difference. The last and probably easiest area to see is on the back of the bill. On web notes, you'll see to the right of In God We Trust, the back plate position, and on a normal bill, it's going to be in a different location. If you have a web note and it grades very highly like this one, it could be worth a ton of money because this one sold for $4,200. I'll spend a few seconds here, but this is a genuine $1 1917 legal tender note. Now, the size of this bill is much larger than our typical bills that we're used to seeing. Now, this 1917 $1 bill is typically worth $50 to $100 in this condition, but because it has a gutter fold error on it, it sold for $480. Cool piece of history right here. You can see a depiction on the left-hand side of the bill of Christopher Columbus. I love old, large-size paper money like this. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click on the video above, and I will see you in the next one.